South Africa, it was during the height of violence. We were burying comrades in Soweto, and at that time I was very close to the Mandela family, still to this day, especially Mbongeni. And I remember that we were standing in her kitchen. She was cooking after one of the funerals that we had been to in Soweto. And I asked her a question. I said, Mama, we're burying these young people every day. What do you think will finally happen to this country? I mean, at that time, no one was dreaming that we would ever get freedom. It was the most bleak period of our history. And she turned around, she stopped what she was doing, she turned around and she looked at me, and she said, you know, Mbongeni, I wish I had, I'm quoting her exact words, I wish I had a big blanket to cover the faces of the little ones so that they do not see the bitter end. After those words, I dropped the conversation, and something just clicked in my head. As I drove out of her house, I began to see visions of these young people she was referring to, running in the streets, carrying placards, and the song "Freedom is Coming Tomorrow" began to ring in my head. I began to think about what had happened in 1976, that from 1976, a decade later, we're still having the same problem. The kids are still being shot at in the streets almost every day. It had not stopped. I know that the world had highly publicized 1976, but 1985 was as bad as 1976 throughout South Africa. I went home, I started jotting some notes down, but the main thing, somehow I felt like it can't continue like this, freedom has to come. But the main theme of what I was drafting was around freedom is coming tomorrow. I went to my piano and I started writing the song. And after that, I began to assemble my cast. Went to, first of all, Durban. There was a group of young kids that I used to run workshops with. Amajika, they were called. Tandekile, sitting at the back there. She was among those kids. So I selected some of them and then started doing auditions, mainly in KZN. Before it was called KZN, it was then Natal, mainly in Natal and Transvaal. In the end, I had assembled some 20-odd young people who were really very keen to work, but who had no theater experience whatsoever. No dancing experience, no vocal training, nothing. So a friend of mine who was my PA at the time, Suzette Lisseau, some of you may know her, she's a dancer and a choreographer. I said to Suzette, can you please find me a space in the city, because we can't be rehearsing in the township. I had too many experiences with Asena Mali, working and rehearsing in the townships before Sarafina. I had missed many assassinations. I had been jailed during the rehearsal of Woza Albert and Pacey. I'm not going to talk about that today. So I felt like the safer place for me to be would be to work right in town.